Hello everyone, I'm here today with a flip-through video. This is part 3 of San Diego. This is the final part of this album. It is finally done. So this is where I left off from part 2. This is where we pick up in part 3. So this is just a little 3x4 insert here that I did back to back with one photo and one pocket card. I kept this super simple because it really didn't need a whole lot. So that was very easy to just kind of put together, put an attacher on it and put it in the album. And then we went back to our room to drop our bags. And then for the evening, we had 2 plans. One was to go to Old Town San Diego. The other was after that to go to the rooftop cinema. That started quite late because, of course, I mean, it was November, but we still needed to wait for the sun to go down, for it to get really, really dark before the movie would even start. So it bought us some time, actually. So we had a super long day. We were up early on the ferry. We did Coronado Island all day. And then we still had the harbor, Old Town, and the movie. So by the end of that day, we were completely beat. But you know what? That's okay. That's the way I like vacations. I like to be on the go, go, go. So back to this. This was just a map we saw once we got to Old Town. We took the train up there. There's a trolley that runs pretty close. You get off, and I think we had to walk like 3 blocks or something right to the edge of Old Town. So it was pretty easy. So I liked the map so much, I decided I would give it its own page here. And this was an easy one. I just found pattern paper. I put the fun washi on there, and then I had these embellishments from a Hip Kit Club order that I did. I can't talk today, man. Finishing this album has made me really, really tired. I think you could tell. Then on the back, I chose to do just a cutout of the map that I got when we arrived. And at first I was like, oh, do I really want this whole thing? That's a lot of info there, but I like it. I think it's good for me as a refresher when I go back to look at this album, but also for anyone else who happens to be looking through it. So here I wanted to include some photos from this particular church. I had it on my list to go in there, and it said in theory that it was supposed to be open, but as has happened to me in other places with churches, when I go there, they're not always open the hours that they say they are. So sadly, this was already closed for the evening. So I only was able to see the outside. It's still beautiful. It's lovely Spanish architecture, but did not get to see the inside, unfortunately. So then I decided to go to the Old Town Market. And while we were up there, one of the things in Old Town San Diego is there's a supposedly haunted house that you can go and tour. And my daughter really wanted to do that. I did not have any interest in that. So I said, you go do that, have fun on your tour. I'm going to go just walk around town. I'm going to go to the market and shop and just see what's there. And it worked out really well. We just met up after we were both done. So I had some fun pictures here of different items in the market, and I had this card that I have been hoarding it. It's got to be at least 3 years, maybe more, since I got it, and I just didn't know, how am I going to use this? Well, it fit perfectly for the Old Town Market because it's a very Mexican Spanish themed in a lot of the stuff, so it worked out really well. These are just some more pictures from different things around town. And then I had a similar card here that says, you had me at Hola. And again, it's like, oh, unless I'm going to have something very, very specific, how am I going to use that? When am I going to use that? Well, here, this is a perfect way to use it. So it even matched with the color scheme here. So how could I not use it? So I have just a few more pictures from the marketplace area there. These were out front. Actually, they were out front of a restaurant. Now I can't remember the name of the restaurant. But if you go to Old Town, there's a lot of restaurants around there, kind of on the main drag of the place. So you'll see them. Can't miss it. And then over here was just when the sun was really going down, and I wanted to feature this card that said sunsets and palm trees. I was able to include that here in kind of a look of the main street in Old Town. So I did get lucky there that I was able to catch a beautiful sunset along with everything else that there was to do. So once we were done out there, we took the train again and we took it back to the heart of San Diego, and we went to the rooftop cinema, and this was at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. So if you're going to be anywhere near there, if you plan on going to San Diego, it's way up on top. The directions are a little confusing. You really have to pay attention once you're in the hotel to make sure you're going in the right direction. But once you're up there, this is what you see. There are fantastic views as you're waiting for the cinema to open and to get seated. And you can kind of just walk all around that upper rooftop area and just take photos. There are drinks and snacks available up there as well. So it's kind of a fun time just to combine some nice night shooting, if you like to shoot at night, which I do. I love night photography. Plus then you get a movie. And for these, they were really easy. I only had 2 photos. I used some ephemera pieces. I had a little piece of chipboard here, just filled this in. And then I loved that I was able to get a nice skyline shot for this full 4x8 photo. And we just got lucky that even though this was like the second week in November, that one of the movies they were showing was Beetlejuice. It's one of my all-time favorites. My daughter loves it too. And so we're like, that's a no-brainer. That's the movie we're going to pick. And I think there were like 3 or 4 different movies that were options depending on what time you went. Because there were usually like 2 a night. And we chose Beetlejuice. So it was super fun to watch a movie that we absolutely love while out on this beautiful rooftop overlooking the city. And so for this one, I just wanted to have kind of some spooky fun with it. So I did this little embellishment that I had. And I liked the purple, the darker purple, to offset kind of the more orchid almost color here. And I'm happy with that. This was something that I put on digitally. I got a set of digital stamps. I believe they're from Carrie Bradford's studio that were all about California. And I thought really hard about, maybe I should just buy the real stamp set. I don't think I'd use it enough. I don't have plans to be going back to California a whole lot right now. So I just felt like it wasn't worth the money. So to do the digital ones instead really was the smarter way to go. And then the next morning, that was our last day, but we had like 3/4 of a day because we didn't fly out till later in the day. So we got up and we went right next door for coffee and breakfast again. We were there every morning. And so we got that taken care of. And then we were off to Balboa Park because we wanted to explore all that had to offer. So you can kind of see this is the start of it here. And all I did to designate that was I just used a tag and wrote it right on there. Nothing, too complicated. And then, I forgot. This one has a flip, actually. When I do these square ones, I generally don't use a tab to indicate that there's something under there. Maybe I should, because look at that. I almost missed my own thing here. But there's the inside of that. I kept the embellishments very minimal because look at the architecture. That's the star of this layout. And then once we were done kind of walking around that part, we decided to go into the Japanese garden. So we have some pictures of that here. I had a ton more, but it would have been impossible to fit those all in there. I would have ended up having like 8 layouts of just the garden, and I knew that wasn't going to fit. So I chose very, very carefully and cut way back, and this is what I ended up with. After the garden area, we did just some more walking around, more to, I guess it would probably be like the western end. And so we saw the beautiful tower there and the dome that is just exquisite. I had to feature that, of course. And then this is actually the front of the art museum here, but the architecture, even if you don't go in to see the art inside, the art outside is fabulous because look at that. It's so gorgeous. And then here I just cut down a 4x6 card to make it into a 4x4. I layered this ephemera piece on there and I did some stamping, and that's it. So this was a super easy one to put together. Then inside the museum, the exhibit that we really wanted to see was called Korea in Color. And I got, similarly to the garden, I got tons of great photos in here, but there's no possible way I could put them all in. So I tried to choose my favorites and just scrap those. So I had these here. This I just chose to put a 4x4 on a 4x8 card that I had and do a little bit of journaling. I think that worked out pretty well. And then the last photo from that exhibit is on the back side, and I love how this turned out. I really tried to match the papers with the colors that were in there, and I'm super pleased with how that turned out. And then really, that's all we had time for. We had to go back to our room, pick up our bags that we had stored there, and then get to the airport. And so once we were out there, we knew we weren't really going to get anything on the plane. So we had dinner at the airport, and I just wanted to showcase that because we just kind of picked a place on a whim, and it actually ended up being pretty good. These loaded tater tots, and they were spicy tater tots. You can see the jalapenos. They actually were very good for airport food. So it was a good way to end our trip. So there you have it. There's the entire album. I will do this and just show you what it looks like when it's closed. It's quite chunky. I mean, it still closes normally, I think, for the most part, but it's definitely chunky. But I'm glad that San Diego is finished. Thanks for watching.